So mock for from chapter 1 to chapter 4, the first 4 chapters, I will solve the questions. Each question I will solve. The first question, some students are asked to describe a difference between gases and the liquid, and 3 suggestions are there. Which suggestions are correct? So when we check the first suggestion, the gas molecules are further apart. That's true. That is correct. Gas molecules are smaller. Size of the molecule does not depend, the size of the molecule does not affect the state. So we cannot say molecule might be larger in size or smaller in size, but that does not decide the state of the substance. State of the substance depends on the arrangement of particle like force of attraction and the distance or spacing between. Liquid molecules vibrate around a fixed position. That is wrong, because in a liquid, the particle can move around each other, move past each other. So only first suggestion, only one suggestion is correct. That's why A is the right answer. For any question, if you want me to repeat, just let me know, either a mic or a chat you can use. So I will repeat that question. A colored liquid vaporizes easily at room temperature. Some of the liquid is placed in a bottom of a sealed jar. Which diagram shows the appearance? Basically, what will happen as a liquid will vaporize. So as the liquid will vaporize, it will turn into a gaseous state, and what we have in a gas, the particle will diffuse. The particle will move from region of a higher concentration to region of a lower concentration until all are completely move randomly with it and take the shape or the volume of the container. So which one is the correct answer? D is the right answer. So first we have a liquid. Liquid will turn into vapor, and these particles in a gas, the vapor will diffuse, move from a region of a higher concentration to a region of low concentration. As they move from a region of high concentration to low concentration, overall the molecules will spread and they will occupy the whole container or whole jar. So D is the right answer. The measurements are made on pure water. So the boiling point, freezing point, and pH. Sodium chloride is now added. When we add sodium chloride, what it will do? Sodium chloride is a salt, so it will dissociate into sodium ion and chloride ion.
And make the water.
Yeah, it will make the water impure. So when we repeat the measurement again, which measurement value will change? Because when the substance become impure, impure substance have different boiling point than pure substances. Same thing for a freezing point, impure substances have different freezing points than pure. But what about the pH? pH depends on the hydrogen ion concentration or amount of hydrogen ion. So as the amount of hydrogen ion does not change, the pH should not change. So it will affect the boiling point. Yes, that's right. It will affect the boiling point. It will affect the freezing point, but it won't affect the pH. Why it won't affect the pH? Because pH is only affected if amount of hydrogen ion or hydroxide ions are changed in the solution. But when we add a salt, the salt will dissociate into positive and negative ions. But these positive ions does not contribute to change in the pH. That's why it does not affect the pH of the solution. So B is the right answer. In question 4, the diagram shows. So in question 4, the diagram shows a chromatogram obtained from 3 suites X, Y, and Z. how many different red dyes are present in the suite? So how many different red dyes are there? Look, this red dye in suite X and red dye in suite Z, these are same red dyes. Why? Because they are occupying the same position. So these two red dyes are same. And then there's another red dye in suite Y and there is a red dye in suite Z. That is also common in Y and Z, but these two red dyes are different. Maybe like different colors or different shades of red are there. So this is red dye 1 and this one is red dye 2. So how many different red colors or red dyes are present in the suite? So it contains two different red dyes. Because it occupies the same position, that's why the suite X and suite Z have the same red color, and suite Y and suite Z have another red color because it is occupying a different position. In question 5, which properties group 6 elements have? 6 element means non-metal. So when we check forms covalent bond, like example, that is true. If I have a group 6 element, if it combined with a non-metal, because group 6 is already a non-metal, and if it combined with another non-metal, what kind of bonding they will have? They will have a covalent bond. And if we have a group 6 element, if it combined with a metal, group 6 is a non-metal. If it combined with a metal, what kind of bonding it will have? It will have ionic bonding. So it will have, it can form covalent bond, it can form ionic bond, but what about conducting electricity in a solid state? Group 6 are non-metal. Non-metal cannot conduct electricity except carbon or a graphite is there. So it form a covalent bond, that's true. It can form an ionic bond, but it cannot conduct electricity. So question 5, C should be the right answer. Question 6, electronic structure of an element is shown. Which diagram shows an electronic structure of another element in the same group in the periodic table? So group number is actually representing the same group, means they will have the same number of electrons in the last shell. So when elements have the same number of electrons in the last shell, they will have the same group number. So when we check the group of this element, because it belongs to group 2 because there are 2 electrons in the last shell. So we have to check an element which is having 2 electrons in the last shell. So when we check this element, it is having 4 electrons, so it means it belongs to group 4. For B, 1, 2, and 3, so it belongs to group 3. For C, it belongs to group 2. And for D, when we check, it appears that it is having only 1 electron, so it means it belongs to group 1. So the correct answer is C, that element C belongs to the same group as it is having the same number of electron in the last shell. In question 7, in a diagram, circle of different size represent atom of different elements. Which diagram represent hydrogen chloride? So gas. So hydrogen chloride, what is the formula for hydrogen chloride? HCl. So it means one hydrogen combined with one chlorine. So we should have an hydrogen, because it is having only one shell. So hydrogen size should be smaller and chlorine size should be larger. So when we check, one hydrogen should combine with one chlorine. So for question 7, A is the right answer. Why not B? Because in B, they are separated from each other. Like hydrogen and chlorine are not combined with each other, but hydrogen chloride is a compound, so they should combine with each other. Why C is wrong? C shows that 2 hydrogen combined with 1 chlorine, but that is not the formula of hydrogen chloride. Hydrogen chloride is HCl, that's why it cannot be C. And what about D? D represent like 2 hydrogen separate and 1 chlorine separate. So that is also wrong. It does not represent the structure of a compound. It represents a mixture of 2 different elements. So A is the right answer, which shows that hydrogen combined with chlorine. In question 8, how many electrons are shared between the atoms in a molecule of a methane and in a molecule of water? So you have to draw the structure to solve this question. So methane, carbon belongs to group 4, so it will share 4 electron and hydrogen share 1. So if hydrogen share 1, carbon share 1 from that side. And there will be no unshared electron on the carbon, the central. So how many electrons are there? 2, 4, 6, and 8 electrons. So in methane, there are 8 electrons. So any option with 8 is correct for methane. And then when we draw the structure of water, which is H2O, so hydrogen combined with oxygen, hydrogen share 1, oxygen share 1, hydrogen share 1, oxygen share 1, and oxygen will have 2 unshared because oxygen belongs to group 6, it will share 2 and unshared will be 4. But in the question, they're only asking the shared number of electrons. So how many shared electrons are there? This is one pair, like 2 electrons, and this is another, so 4. So in case of water, it is having 4 electrons shared, and in methane, there are 8 electrons shared. That's why option D is the right answer.
Mr. Can you repeat it? Because Mr. like H2O.
Yeah, H2O, you have to check. H2O means it contains 1 oxygen and it contains 2 hydrogen. Hydrogen share 1. So if hydrogen share 1, oxygen will share 1 from that side. Same thing, if hydrogen share 1, oxygen share 1 from that side. And oxygen belongs to group 6. When element belongs to group 6, it will share only 2 and unshared will be remaining 4. So 4 unshared will be there. But in the question, they're not asking total number of electrons. They're only asking the shared between the atom. So this is 1, 2, and 3, 4.
3, 4. Oh, okay. Okay, Mr.
The next question, the oxide of Pb3O4 react with nitric acid to form lead-4 oxide, another product. So basically, they give you the answer in the question. If you just have to identify, it form lead-2 nitrate and lead-4 oxide. So if you identify the correct formula of lead-2 nitrate and lead-4 oxide, you can identify which one is the right option. So when you check first for lead-2 nitrate, what will be the formula of lead-2 nitrate? The Roman number represent the valency of the metal here. So lead-2 nitrate means lead is +2 and nitrate ion is having a valency, molecular ion is having a valency of -1. So one is +1, another
because
one is
Mr. It's group 5.
which one? Nitrate, you don't find
Mr. Why it have -1?
Why it is having a -1? Nitrate is a molecular ion. You have to learn or memorize the valency of these molecular ions. And you can also work out, like example, nitrogen belongs to group 5, so +5, and oxygen belongs to group 6, so -2. So +5 -6, that will become -1. But instead of try to do in this manner, you have better memorize the valency of the molecular ions such as sulfates, nitrates, carbonates.
Yes, okay, sir.
You cannot find this in a periodic table because molecular ions are not there in a periodic table. You only find the elements in the periodic table.
Yes, okay, Mr.
So lead-2 nitrate, we cross multiply the valency. So it will become lead here. This one will be with lead and 2 will be with nitrate because 2 are there. So the formula of lead-2 nitrate is PbNO3 in a bracket 2. Then, so lead to any formula in which we have lead to nitrate formula PbNO3, that is correct. So when you check which one is lead to nitrate formula is correct. So only A lead to nitrate, this is wrong formula of lead to nitrate. This is also a wrong formula. This is also a wrong formula. So without solving for all, we can simply identify that because the lead to nitrate formula is correct, so A should be the right answer. In an exam, there will be a periodic table. So you don't have to memorize the valency for elements, only for molecular ions. You don't have in a period, you can not identify from the periodic table. So you have to learn the valencies for the molecular ion. The compound ethyl mercaptan, which is having a formula of C2H5SCH, is very unpleasant smell. What is the relative molecular mass? So we have the formula C2H5SCH. So we want to identify the molecular mass of this compound. So for this, we have to use a periodic table. So this is a periodic table. This will be given in exam. You just have to identify the mass of each element. So carbon, when you check the carbon, so mass of a carbon is 12. So this will be 12 multiplied by 2 because there are 2. Plus hydrogen is 1. When you identify hydrogen is 1, multiply how many total hydrogen? This is 5 plus 1, 6. Plus sulfur in the periodic table 32, and there is no other, like only one atom is there, so that's why it is only 32. So 12 multiplied by 2, that is 24. 1 multiplied by 6, so total sum will be 30, and plus 32. So when we add them, we will get 62. So 62 should be the molecular mass of this compound. So option 62, so D is the right answer. In question 11, for each of the following, give a name of element from period 2. So we have to select an element from period 2. So what are the elements in period 2? This is period 1, which only contain 2 elements, hydrogen and helium. And this one is period 2, which contain lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon. So we have to answer from period 2, which means 2 electron shells are there. An element which is gas at room temperature. So which element is gas at room temperature? So when you check period 2, nitrogen is a gas, oxygen is a gas, fluorine is a gas, or neon is a gas. So these, because these are non-metal and they exist as a gas, so you can write any one of them. It's up to you. So you can write nitrogen, you can write oxygen, you can write fluorine, you can write neon, any one, because they ask only for an element. Then element which form an oxide, that is a reactant of a photosynthesis. So what is a reactant of a photosynthesis? When you write the equation for photosynthesis, that carbon dioxide plus the water vapor result in a formation of a glucose and oxygen. So what is a reactant? The oxide. So which oxide is a reactant? Carbon dioxide is a reactant, and water molecules are also reactant. So, but in the period 1, we have hydrogen. We don't have, in a period 2, we don't have hydrogen. So in a period 2, we have carbon. So the correct answer for this one is carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide plus water are the reactant, and we just have to identify an oxide that is a reactant of photosynthesis. So that oxide, an element that form an oxide that is a reactant, so that element is carbon. Then element that is a product of photosynthesis. So what is the product of photosynthesis? We have oxygen as a product. An element that makes up about 78% of air by volume. So when you check the percentage composition of atmosphere, you'll find that it contains 78% nitrogen. You can also answer, like if you want to participate, you can also answer in a chat, or you can also use your mic. So it's better, like it's like a revision. An element which has atom of full outer shell electrons. Full outer shell electron means group 8 elements are there.
So neon.
Neon will be there. You can use mic, you can use chat. What is easy for you, you can use that to answer. An element which exists.
Mr. Can we?
Yes.
Mr. Can we write it all or write only the symbol?
No, here you have to write, they accept both, but here you have to write a name of an element. I'm just writing a symbol,
Yes, okay,
but
sir.
in exam you have to write name of element. An element which
Yes,
exists
okay.
as a diamond and graphite, that's right, carbon. An element that reacts vigorous with cold water. So group 1 alkali metals are highly reactive. So that's why it is lithium. And the element which must be stored under the oil because they react very far, like they are highly reactive. Even fluorine is acceptable for the previous answer, like fluorine also is a more reactive element from its compound, from its group. So that's why here you can also write fluorine. Because for group 1, all are highly reactive and reactivity increase. And for group 7, reactivity decrease. So fluorine is more reactive. So, and the soft metallic element. So which is a soft metallic element or soft metal? That is lithium. So the last one, the answer is Li or lithium. Then give formula of a compound that contains boron and oxygen. So if you want to write a formula of a compound, you have to use a periodic table. So when you use a periodic table, boron, this one is boron, which is group 3. So what will be the valency of boron? That is +3. And oxygen belongs to group 6, so valency will be -2. So whenever two elements have a different valency, we simplify and cross multiply. So this 2 will come with boron and 3 with oxygen. So it will be B2 and O3. So B2O3 is the valency. And lithium and nitrogen. So you have to check again the periodic table. Lithium is a group 1 element, so valency will be +1. And nitrogen is group 5 element, so valency will be -3. So when we simplify, 3 will come with lithium and 1 with nitrogen. So formula of lithium nitride is Li3N. So whenever we have element, we have to write a formula of a compound. We use a periodic table, write their valency, simplify, and then cross multiply to get the final formula. Question 12, structure question, which is define atomic number. There are certain definitions which you have to learn. I have already shared that file with you. I will share that again. That you have to memorize. For definitions, better you try to learn instead of writing in your own words. Writing in your own words, sometimes you miss a point which score marks, so it's better memorize all the definition. So what is atomic number? Atomic number is basically the number of protons in the nucleus of an atom. And what is a nucleon number?
Yes, Mr. It's the number of proton and the neutron added.
The definitions file which I have sent is not from physics and maths tutor. I sought out the definition and shared that one. The notes are from that side, but not the definition. The term nucleon number, it is a sum of neutrons and protons in the nucleus of an atom. Then use screen annotation to complete this. You have to complete table shows the number of proton, neutron, and electron in some atoms or ions. Ions means they have different number of electron and protons. So you will identify, because the proton number is like the identity of element. proton number is 12. So which element is having a proton number 12? Proton number 12 is not carbon. Proton number 12 is magnesium, Mg. And for oxygen, there is a charge on oxygen. So -2 means it has 2 extra electrons. It has 8 neutrons because the number of proton and the nucleon number is 16. So 16 minus 8, that is 8. And here atomic proton number is the identity. So 11 proton and 10 electrons. So it will have a positive charge. That's correct. The nucleon number is 24 and the proton number is 11. So here for sodium, it is 24 and 11 with a charge +1. For magnesium, 12 and 24. And there is no charge because it has equal number of proton and neutron does not affect the charge. Proton and electron affect the total charge. Then gallium is a metallic element in group 3. It has a similar properties of aluminium. Describe the structure. Basically, you have to describe the structure. What metal consists of? Metal consists of a lattice of a positive ion. So regular arrangement or a lattice of a positive ions or cations. And it has delocalized electrons. The free electrons are there, the electrons which are free to move within the structure. So 3 mark, how you will score 3 marks? What is the distribution of the marks? First is you will mention a lattice of a positive ion, that will give you 1 mark. Second is the delocalized electron, that is a 2nd mark. What about the 3rd mark? Held together by a strong force of attraction between the positive and negative charges or positive ions and the electrons. So lattice of a positive ion. In delocalized or sea of electrons, which held together by a strong force or electrostatic force. You can use this term electrostatic because electro means charge and static means rest. So this is also an electrostatic force of attraction. Why metals such as gallium are good conductor of electricity? Because they have free or delocalized electron. That's why they can conduct electricity. Then give the formula of gallium chloride, gallium 3 chloride. So they give this Roman number. Remember, this Roman number is always representing gallium is 3 and chloride. So we have to check the periodic table for the symbol for a gallium. So here Ga is a symbol. So gallium is there, Ga with a valency +3, and chloride means chlorine is there, which is a group 7 element. So group 7 element chloride is there. So when we cross multiply, so gallium chloride will be GaCl3. And gallium sulfate, you don't find them in a periodic table. You have to learn the valency. So gallium is there +3 and sulfate is -2. When we cross multiply, so it will be Ga2. SO4 sulfate is there in a bracket 3. So that is the formula for gallium sulfate. Draw a diagram to show a valency in one molecule of a hydrogen sulfide. So hydrogen sulfide, you have to check the periodic table. Sulfur belongs to group 6. So element belongs to group 6. It will share 2 electrons and the total unshared electrons will be 4. And hydrogen, it share only 1 and unshared will be 0. So we have sulfur If hydrogen share 1, sulfur share 1 from that side. And same thing, there should be another hydrogen. So if hydrogen share 1, sulfur share 1 from that side. And we have to represent the electron of a sulfur with dot, and we have to represent the electron of hydrogen with cross. So dot and cross diagram. Now, how many unshared electrons are there on sulfur? Sulfur belongs to group 6, so 2 is shared, and unshared will be 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. When we complete a circle for each element, so hydrogen circle will have only 2 electrons, and sulfur circle will have 8 electrons. So this is a structure, a covalent structure of hydrogen sulfide. Because hydrogen is a non-metal as well as the sulfur, so they will have a covalent structure, or sharing of electron is there between the 2 elements. Then question 15 is related to empirical formula. 1.68 gram sample of a phosphorus was burned. 3.87 gram of oxide of phosphorus. From 3.87 oxide of phosphorus, calculate the empirical formula of oxide of phosphorus. So we can use a mass or a percentage to get the empirical formula. So what is the mass of phosphorus? That is 1.68. But what about the mass of oxygen? This is a mass of phosphorus oxide, oxide of phosphorus. So what will be the mass of oxygen? Because this is a mass of phosphorus and oxygen to total mass. So 3.87 minus 1.68. This will give us the mass of oxygen, which is 2.19. Because this is the mass of phosphorus and oxygen, and this is the mass of phosphorus. So when we subtract, we'll get the mass of oxygen. Now, how to find the empirical formula? There are 3 steps to get the empirical formula. Step 1 is divide by atomic mass. So you have to use a periodic table. Phosphorus, you can find it is 31 and oxygen is 16. So what you will do, you will divide the mass of phosphorus by 31 and oxygen by 16. So 1.68 divided by 31, that is equals to 0.05, and 2.19 divided by 16, that is equal to 0.13. After getting the first step, the second step is divide by the smallest value. So which one is the smallest value? 0.05 is the smallest value. So this will be 1, and 0.13 divided by 0.05, this is equals to, when we take the full number, because that was 1.68 divided by 31 was 0.054. So when we divide this 0.13 by 0.054, that is equivalent to 2.47 or about 2.5. Remember, whenever one of the values 1.5, 2.5 or 3.5, what you will do, you will multiply all of them by 2. So we'll multiply this by 2, the phosphorus and oxygen. So the final answer, this will be 2 and this one is 5. So the formula of the oxide will be P2O5. So step 1, divide by atomic mass. Step 2, divide by the smallest value. And step 3, we will make the simplest whole race. So we will take a simplest ratio in a whole number. Then in this question, which is related to the moles, 25 cm cube of sodium carbonate was placed in a conical flask, and it is titrated with HCl of a concentration . So we have the concentration of HCl and we have the volume of HCl. So first, what we can do, we can find the moles of HCl. So how to get the moles? If we have the concentration and volume, the formula is moles equal concentration into volume. The concentration is 0.18 and the volume is 20, but that should always be in dm cube, so divided by 1000. So 0.20 divided by 1000 into 0.18, this will give us the concentration, this will give us the moles of HCl, which is 0.0036. So 0.0036 moles of HCl. Then we have to calculate a number of moles of sodium carbonate. So first we solve by formula. The second part will solve by ratio. So we'll take a ratio between HCl and sodium carbonate. So the ratio between HCl and sodium carbonate is 2:1. So if we have 0.0036 moles, then X will be there for sodium carbonate. So we cross multiply, we'll get 0.0018 moles of sodium carbonate by simplifying the ratio. And then we need a concentration. So we have the formula moles equal concentration into volume. The moles of sodium carbonate we calculated. So first we solve by formula, then ratio, then again formula. So 0.0018, the concentration we don't know, and the volume of sodium carbonate is 25 cm cube here, as you can see, but that should be in dm cube. So 25 divided by 1000, which is 0.025. 0.025. The 0.025 is multiplied, other side will be divided. So 0.0018 divided by 0.025. So the final answer will be the concentration of sodium carbonate, which is 0.072. So 0.072 is the concentration. So first we solve by formula. The second part we solve by ratio, and the third part again we use a formula. So you will find a sequence that when we are solving a moles question, the first part is always by using a formula.